The Woodsmen by Hornet Custom Knives. Made from 1095 high carbon steel with an overall length of 10.5 inches. Blade length on this knife is 5 3/4 of an inch, and the width is 1 3/8 inch. Spine is made from 1/8 inch stock, full tang of course with liners, and some of the most beautiful stabilized California buckeye scales that I've seen.
Hey guys, this is William Myers, Mantis Outdoors, and today I've got a really cool video that I've been kind of sitting on for a little while because I've been wanting to really test this knife because it has actually impressed me that much. And it's a blade from an 18-year-old kid named Carson Falk. He owns a little company called Hornet Custom Knives, and this blade from him, like I said, has just impressed me way too much. I mean, as you see, I've been using it. I got a little stuff on it, but you know, I've been putting it through its paces. It's a really beautiful knife that he's made. A flat with secondary bevel, flat ground, nice liners. So let's go ahead and put this to work, see how the handle feels. We're gonna work with it for a little while, see if we can't get some discomfort out of this. And the only thing that I've seen when I'm working with it so far is that up here in this, well, not really choil, but what he did was very smart. He rounded this out. This is not sharp right here. He rounded it so it doesn't dig into your fingers. So let's go put this to work. Now we got a couple pieces of wood that we're going to be working on. I just want to go and show you guys what the sheath that he put on here. Really nice sheath from Doug Wilson. Love the little patterns that are on it and little extra accessories and stuff like that. So you have multiple carry options as far as this goes. Kind of 35 degree, I can't even remember, tack lock. I think they're called tech locks on here. I like these are pretty cool because you don't have to take your belt off to get your knife off, something like that. Other than that, it's got a little dangler on here, pretty cool. Nice sheath from Yellow Hawk, really cool. So actually, let's get to work with the knife. All right, so you know, to show you guys what the knife can do, I figured I'll just kind of bust out a quick bow drill set, release the boards for it and stuff like that. So we're going to start right about here. This is about the limits of this knife anyway. You don't want to go too crazy with it. Wedged over really nicely. Be a huge chunk of heartwood in this board, but it'll be all right. Nice board came out. So, you know, we're just going to use this knife to kind of clean up this board a little. Really nice and smooth. Runs on the wood really nicely. Takes big hunks out. Straighten that up pretty good. You know, we're not going to be using this as a bow drill set, just showing you how the knife runs. So now what I need to do is plane out one side, and that's where you're going to benefit from the blade surface like this. You know, there's no curves or anything in this blade surface, so this knife's going to plane out wood really nicely. So, you know, if we kind of get this closer in the camera, you can see side by side which side's been planed out and which side hasn't. This knife did a pretty good job getting the board nice and level so we can, you know, start our holes for bow drills and things like that. So, very comfortable. Probably the only negative that I can think of right at this moment is the handle is a little on the thin side. But it is still, even though it's thin, it still is nice and round. It's not squared and pointy and things like that. And I really appreciate the fact that he rounded out this little choil here. Nice and comfortable so far. All right, so let's try to get a little spindle broke out here. Just kind of go on this side. You know, when I make a bow drill set, I try to make the set out of all one piece. You know, I'm not trying to go through the woods and find 30,000 different pieces of wood. That's pretty nice right there. Knock this chunk out and then start to shape it. That'll work.
Can you watch my shelter, bro?
Oh, yeah. Everything's going in your shelter. All right, so what I want to do now is I just kind of want to do some like crafting chops. This isn't a chopping knife. This isn't something you're going to chop down things with. But for little crafting chops like this, just to remove the meat or the wood that you want to get rid of. You know, and this is a lighter weight knife, so it's not going to have that heft that, you know, say a heavier knife would. So it is, you're going to have to work a little harder to get stuff removed. But, you know, doing these chops like this, getting it the rough outline shape of what I want, and then go into some more precise slicing, this knife's going to be pretty good at it. All right, so now we have just a basic general outline of what we're doing. Now we're going to get to some slicing and see how this thing goes through wood just with normal slicing. And it's really smooth. I mean, this flat grind really is able to pick up what I want. I'm just following this around in a circle, picking up the previous line that I cut and just rounding this out. And I'm really throwing a lot of wood. It is fatiguing me a little bit because of the thin handle. Not that big of a deal. Maybe one suggestion that I would have for the knife maker, maybe bulk up the handles just a little bit more, especially for people that have a little bit larger hands. It's really not that big of a deal. All right, so now we got it nice and round. It's a really big spindle. You know, to be honest with you, for time of year, I make like a winter when it's really cold out like this, I'll make something smaller. You know, the friction of a smaller spindle, it will get the coal a little bit faster. And then in the summertime, you can go with bigger stuff like this. But, you know, this is just demonstrational purposes. Let's go ahead and finish this spindle out with some precision cuts at the top. You know, I'll go about an inch down all the way around, maybe twice, and then I'll half that distance, and then I'll half that distance again to round it over to get a bull nose. All right, now I can move up. Moving up again. This will be the last one around because then it'll be shaped. Decent little shape there for the start. And then what I do here is I point this out because I want a lot of surface area here, you know, for friction, and I don't want a lot of surface area here, so less friction in my handhold, my bearing block. This is taking a nice amount of wood every time that I go around. So now I need to start looking, make sure my point's balanced. That's pretty balanced. I just don't want it to be over on one side, and then when I'm actually running it, it gets a little janky. That's good. Good little spindle. Only took maybe 2-3 minutes to make with this knife. All right, so we made the we carved out the board, we busted out the board, planed it out, got it straightened out. We made a nice spindle. Like I said, everything's absolutely just soaking wet. So I mean, we're not gonna actually run the bow drill. I'm just showing you, demoing the knife now. But after all that, let's see how some more like fine detail stuff like feathers and things like that come out. Very nice, very nice. I mean, it's just, this knife is very smooth. The edge of this knife is very symmetrical. It's easy to find the grind, even though it's a flat grind. Scandi grinds are a lot easier to find the grind on. Just the slightest light touch, and I know where the grind is, and I can follow it down. This knife is really nice for carving, fine carving tasks, things like that. I mean, just 2 minutes, 2 quick little fine paper feathers. That'll definitely work. Very, very, very nice knife, guys. Very nice knife. All right, so we've got all that done. So let's go ahead and kind of see what the tip does. It's not exactly a spear point tip, but it isn't like really off center very bad. You just kind of got to work your way around and be careful not to go through your thumb, obviously. Get a nice start to the bow drill. Right there. Really quickly. Did a nice job there. All right, very nice, very nice. See, carving that notch, see what happens there. So I already got it started. A couple seconds more work. We'll have a nice notch going. As I'm rocking back and forth making this notch, this knife, it is extremely comfortable. It is nice, but if you choke up too far on this handle to do your rocks, you're going to get into the spine of that knife. That can be a tad uncomfortable. Just make sure you're back here on the handle. And to cheat this, I usually use the saw from my multi-tool. But I just want to see what this knife's going to do, making this V. What I'm looking for is a tight 45-degree V. The secret to this, though, is at the point of the V to be as tight as possible. Yeah, just about like that. And then one other little secret that I do, well, not secret, a lot of people do it, is wall out the inside here. This does two things. It allows more dust to collect, and it allows more air to get to the dust once it does collect. And this knife is doing a very good job at all the things that I pretty much ask it to do at this point. Alright, just kind of testing the edge out with my finger right now, and I can tell there's no burr, so I didn't roll the edge or anything like that. is still pretty sharp. It has lost a little tiny bit. We've been doing a lot of stuff with this knife. Let's go ahead and bust out a couple notches though. That grind really grabs the wood nicely. Nice quick square notch, flat notch. Sorry, flat notch. This is what I like to do too, is a square notch, because then when I pop the notch out, that's going to tell me a lot about what the knife is capable of, whether I do or don't lose anything at that point. Then get in there with the tip, straighten that notch out. That's a deep notch. Nice little square notch, almost like a dovetail, to be honest with you. Nice notch. And that's just with 2 little swings with a baton too. It really drives home. That being flat the way it is kind of a bear to get it out of wood sometimes. So if you do end up purchasing something like this, you want to be careful about how deep you drive it into wood. You might have a little bit of a hard time getting it out. But you know, after all that, the edge is still right on par with what I want in a knife. Yeah, we haven't messed with this edge at all, really. Still doing very fine shaves. All right. You know, my opinion about this knife, you know, outside the fact that it's an 18-year-old kid making the knife, which I've said over and over and over again, it just impresses me so much that this kid is able to make this quality of a knife as young as he is, and I'm looking forward to what he could do in the future as well. I'm actually really impressed with this knife, even if, like I said, it wasn't from somebody his age. The handle, the fit and finish is really nice on the blade. The one negative, you know, don't always, but you know, I do come up with, you know, my negatives, and I do express them in the videos, is that the handle is pretty thin. It did fatigue me out when making the bow drill sets and things like that. Had to take a break. You know, my hands are getting a little cramped up after about, you know, 15 minutes of working, things like that. So my only comment to the knife maker maybe would be to kind of beef these handles up a little bit. But other than that, you know, a lot of thought went into this blade, rounding out this so it didn't come in, you know, sharp contact with your fingers when you're using the blade. That being said, so your finger is going to come up here just like this when you're choking up to use this blade for detail work. This throat of this handle should probably arc up a little bit, because when you're choking up, you're going to come in like that, and now this part of your thumb or of your hand is into the 90-degree spine, which this has a really nice 90-degree spine. We didn't show it on camera because, you know, we've showed, you know, there's nothing to a 90-degree spine. All I can do is just tell you this is a sharp 90-degree spine. Very, very nice 90-degree spine. But yeah, really nice knife from Hornet Customs. His name is Carson Falk, is the guy that has started the company. The package, the sheath package from Yellow Hawk, as always, really nice. Like it a lot. I like the carry options that are included. You know me, I'm not a huge fan of drop legs, so I probably, if this was my knife, I probably would take this off and just run the Tech Lock. But that's neither here nor there. All right, guys. So, you know, in closing, you know, I can't stress this enough, that I'm really looking forward to what this kid can do in the future. Even though this is a really nice knife, maybe 1 or 2 things that I would change on it personally for my use. You know, somebody else with smaller hands pick this thing up, think it's the absolute perfect knife for them. So it's pretty much that close to being perfect. So, you know, that's pretty much not much more that I could say. Appreciate you guys dropping by, watching the videos. If you could drop a sub or a like, that'd be appreciated, and hopefully we'll see you out in the woods.